As of the writing of this video, it's been about 2 weeks since Bungie revealed their newest video game project, Marathon. And I'm going to be perfectly honest, I did not play the original Marathon games. I know very little about them, and I know very little about this new version of what I'm told was a set of seminal releases for the shooter genre. But I do know this. This trailer is awesome. And you're going to watch it. I'm gonna make you. So, let's get started. Now that we're all on the same page, it's time for a title drop. Cut to black. Title appears. The core of this video is the application of a posthuman lens to a viewing of the May 2023 Marathon announcement trailer. Which means that we should probably start with an actual definition of posthumanism, just so that you know what's, going on. According to the .com belonging to Oxford Reference, oxfordreference.com, posthumanist philosophy is the critical perspective that the age of humanism has come to an end. It is premised on the idea that humanism's twin assumptions, that humans are both knowable and reasonable, is false. It rejects the idea that humans can be known, largely on the grounds that the dividing line between human and non-human, or animal, is difficult to delineate in the first place, and highly permeable too. Donna Haraway's work on cyborgs is especially important in this regard. It also rejects the idea that because humans have reason, or at least bestow upon themselves the idea that they have reason, this is sufficient to make them the only arbiters of the fate of the planet and all its other non-human inhabitants. Posthumanism is a highly eco-conscious discourse. Which is lovely. Let's distill this into a simple phrase. Posthumanism is a philosophical perspective which posits that humanity is not the only entity on Earth that is capable of ethics, morality, or metaphysical consideration. Under a posthuman perspective, it's pretty standard to take into account the viewpoints and moral axes of plants, animals, and pretty much every other thing that we share this planet with. As mentioned in our definition from Oxford Reference's website, oxfordreference.com, posthumanism is an eco-conscious philosophical framework. With that in mind, I'm going to make something up and pass it off as real philosophy. Posthuman thought strives towards a state of existential parity, where all things within an ecosystem contribute equally to its value system and ethical/moral state of affairs. What this entails is not concrete and is frankly subject to its own brand of impossible inscrutability. We could be looking towards some sort of conflation of the species, where biological delimiters between humans and every other living entity are blurred to the point of irrelevance, or even an elimination of the human element, allowing nature at its most brutal and natural to serve as a great equalizer once again. What is this state of parity called? I have no idea. Let's pretend it's called the Great Integration of Posthumanism. I've gone ahead and I've put this on the screen for you in very helpful text, just so that you can really get to grips with it. For reference, this font is called Pretension. Posthumanism also has a lot in common with transhumanism, a school of thought which, in particular, argues for the malleability of the human condition. Transhumanists advocate for the use of emergent technologies to move humanity beyond what most people would call biological realities, things like death, aging, and so on. And yes, this does include the robot arms and the cyber eyes. So all of those 14-year-olds who tell you that their favorite book is Neuromancer are really just transhumanists in disguise. So the number one rule for an ideal post-human world is that humanity ought to exist in harmonic tandem with the rest of the world and its denizens, a simultaneous ecological and moral/ethical nirvana, almost. Which is great, but the existence of this rule begs the question. Let's talk about Marathon. Things start off with a bang, which is to say, with the crushing of a mushroom. A few off-kilter shots of someone who we can assume from the information posted to the Marathon website is a runner, a mercenary in search of ancient treasures and alien artifacts on the planet Tau Ceti 4. And then, quite possibly the best part of this entire teaser, the silkworms. According to the massive ARG conducted based on hidden data related to this teaser, link in the description. These worms are the product of a corporate inquisition into expanding consciousness transference technology. What becomes obvious only a few seconds later is that these worms print bodies. Besides just being a really clever and stylish way to contextualize the creation of artificial bodies without having to resort to the classic grown-in-a-vat solution that so many works of science fiction take, the silkworms couch Marathon's relationship with birth, life, and death within an entirely different framework of thought. The human life cycle, which is traditionally composed of procreation into birth into death, is supplanted by a new, streamlined solution which leverages an entirely different species of being to aid in the commodification of the human form. And yes, this is commodification. As we'll see later, this body is adorned with the logo of the Traxxas Corporation, one of a number of massive conglomerates within the Marathon canon. What does this mean for the people of this universe? There is a sort of transhumanism here, humanity moving beyond the mess and pain of natural reproduction and opting instead for a more elegant solution, technology supplanting biology. It seems like Marathon's particular brand of transhumanist biohackery doesn't just incorporate techified replacements for human biology into the mix, but also appropriates divergent and foreign biological processes in order to gain some kind of advantage. In this case, I think it's safe to assume that, as I mentioned, the silkworms allow people to bypass the pain and uncertainty of birth and skip directly to the "I have a body now." Let's table this idea for just a few minutes and watch on. We get a logo reveal. Yes, this is a Bungie game. Then, a shot of the Marathon. This is really interesting. The Marathon games are named for a colony ship constructed out of the carcass of Mars's moon, Deimos. The original conception of the Marathon suggested that the entire station was built within the core of Deimos itself, rather than what we see here, a massive spire piercing the heart of this moon. Building a colony craft into the core of a moon is about as gentle as such an obtrusive act can be. Not symbiosis, but I think we can call it respectful parasitism. This new Marathon is very deliberately violent. There are shards of Deimos floating about like viscera after a stabbing. The new Marathon exists in opposition to the idea of a peaceful coexistence, let alone something like a post-human utopia. What is going on here? We've seen it twice now, this kind of hijacking. Humanity takes something useful and twists it to its own ends, seemingly to no benefit of the thing being used. Let's flash back to the silkworms for a second. They're synthetic, they're not actual worms, and they're made of some clean-cut neon stuff, printed with specs and logos. The worms are a lie! Rote instruments stolen and rebuilt, refurbished, sanitized, corporatized. So suddenly Marathon is turning into something else. It has post-humanist energy, so to speak, but it seems almost dystopic. Humanity pillages the world, or worlds, around it in an attempt to ease its own propagation and perpetuation across the cosmos. The Great Integration becomes the Great Appropriation. And this theme of exploitation only grows. We get a very quick shot of a spit compiler, something that fans of the older games will recognize on sight. For those of us not in the know, the Spit were a client species to the antagonists of the first few Marathon games, the Four. In particular, they were enslaved, used as living computers. Whether or not this compiler is placed within the Marathon teaser deliberately or not, it definitely adds to the sense that Marathon is all about the dichotomization of the very ecology of the universe. There are two types of entities at play here, the agents and the objects. Humanity, it seems, is an agent. It shatters worlds. It steals species. The silkworms, the spit, Deimos, they become objects, then. What informs the categorization of any given entity within this dichotomy? How do we decide on the agents or the objects? Obviously, this isn't going to be a question with a very clear answer. The intersection of economic power, resource density, and even such a blunt instrument as simple biological advantage can push a species towards agenthood rather than objecthood. One thing that is clear, however, is that in this new Marathon, all of humanity's conquests are embossed with a corporate logo. The silkworms have a little Traxxas Corporation logo printed to the tops of their heads. There's a shot of a body contained within a sort of plastic sack, some kind of artificial amnion. Again, the Traxxas logo. Even the runner from the start of the trailer has a pack with the UESC logo on it. And while no, the UESC is not a megacorporation, it does carry a lot of the same baggage, functioning as a massive individual actor representing a certain subset of the human race. In my opinion, it is a corporation in all but name, and of course, the greatest sponsorship of the UESC is the Marathon, which is painted spectacularly in gaudy blues and reds to mark its commission. Everything that humanity can adapt or appropriate becomes a part of its marketplace of conquest, twisted to a corporate design and made to function as either a commodity or as an accessory to one. Artificial bodies, untold treasures, brand new worlds. Everything that Marathon's humans can get their hands on, they take and they brand. Like cattle. Like products. Marathon is a nightmare of human construction, a museum dedicated to the things that have been stolen and ruined and streamlined for the sake of expedition. It purports to a post-human styling, bridging the gap between humanity and the world around it, but does so discordantly, not through empathy or humility, but through relentless, endless taking. The universe of Marathon is split in two, and humanity wants to be the last thing on top. Somewhere in the heavens, they are waiting to be taken. The only question is, how long will they elude capture? This trailer is doing a lot, and for what it's worth, it's a gorgeous piece of video. I didn't even touch on the art design in this video, largely because this trailer is very visually dense, filled with a lot of secondary visual effects and little details that serve to construct a very compelling world. And, of course, it goes without saying that everything in this video is based on the May 2023 announcement trailer for Marathon. As details about Bungie's next project release, I'm sure that we can expect a lot of the assertions made in this video to be either subject to uncertainty or outright invalidated. Anyway, I hope that you've enjoyed this as much as I have. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.